3 is the future.
Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast. A podcast that now has a new theme song that Ray is, as of this moment, learning about. That our, of course, friendly user Caster Garden has upgraded our theme song to something specific, customized for us here. So, for our guests, just so you're aware, Caster Garden is a recording artist. He does a lot of the lo-fi type stuff, a little bit casual, relaxing, but he's put together a couple good gaming themed albums, and he has graciously provided us with a new theme song here. So Ray is, as of right now, learning it before he actually hears the song has come out. So anyway, I'll get back on the rails here. Normally, we're a podcast where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, but for the second time, we are taking a little side tour here. I probably have to figure out some name for our indie series here, but much as we did with Popcorn Rocket a little bit ago, we're doing the same thing today, and I'm going to kick it over to Ray to introduce our first time. This is our first time having 2 guests at once, too. We're off the rails, Ray. Let's do this.
A lot of new stuff going on here. I'm excited for it. What's going on, everybody? So today we have 2 guests. Like we said, we have 2 guests to talk about 2 indie game developers here for Bodeville Games. It is Alexia Mandeville and Boghosian. I'm going to give a little intro. Alexia has led the team over at Niantic with their new IP, Peridot, designing VR experiences at Oculus. Boghosian, former engineer, he's worked on Pokémon GO and Harry Potter Wizards Unite, and they're going off on their own now since 2022 with Bodeville Games. And they're here to talk about their newest mobile game that'll be coming out when this episode drops. So, Alexia, Bo, welcome. How are you 2 doing tonight?
Thank you. Doing great.
We're doing well. Thanks for having us on, Ray and Dan. We're happy to be here.
We're excited to have you. I'm going to get right into this first game here because we're recording and I'm talking about it as I have the game open because I haven't been able to turn it off today. Grift. So Grift is the name of the mobile game here. So a little description. You're a goat and you're seeking revenge, and you play as Henry Horns, a goat who's scamming people on social media while trying to find his nemesis, Gwendolyn Goat. Dress up bots, scam your way to the top by unlocking new conversations and new ways to interact with your targets. Maybe you'll discover something new about yourself along the way. So, like I said, I've been grifting and scamming all day, so I have to ask, where did the idea for this game come from?
Alexia.
Yeah. My friend was dating somebody, and he brought up somebody on Instagram who was scamming him, and that's essentially, I'm not going to give you all of the info, but that's the general premise of where it came from. And I was like, that's a really funny game. I've never seen that before. And I brought it up to Bo, and he liked it. So I just put it on paper, and we started riffing off of stuff. And that's kind of where it came from.
So you're playing for real life. How long does it take to kind of get this game from idea on paper to its kind of its first iteration?
I'm trying to think. So we launched our first game, Chief Emoji Officer. I think that was April. And I think within a few weeks, we were already starting on this one. Yeah. So it's been about 9 months total. We put together, I think, a GDD in a couple weeks, Alexia?
Yeah, and then we took a break for like a month, I think. And maybe a couple months, maybe like 3 months total. It feels like forever.
August off. I was traveling with family, and we said, you know what, let's just take the month off. So then take that to 8 months, including not including our long vacation. But I think within a month or 2, we had it working. We had the systems largely working. Just a gray box prototype that you could scam people, started working on the money algorithms. And then since then, it's been a lot of tweaking the game, getting feedback and play testers, adding things like sound, music, saving. To first prototype, probably, a month? Maybe. We tried to go really quick, and it was a simple prototype, but probably just a month.
Well, it was much simpler when we got it to a prototype, and then we added all of the chatting. We added a bunch of characters. We added a bunch of conversations. We added a bunch of new features and a lot of artwork.
Who does the artwork
Chief Emoji Officer,
for you guys?
Sorry.
So Lilith, we hired an artist that we worked with at Niantic on Peridot. Her name is Lilith Belglarian. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Belglarian.
Belglarian. Okay. And then I did all of the user interface work, and then Bo and I both wrote all of the conversations.
With our first game, this is funny. After Chief Emoji came out, it was a story. We were writing and writing and writing for, it felt like, weeks on end. We said, we do not want to do a chat game again. We don't want to write conversations, write stories for all these characters. And then a couple months in, we were like, damn it, it really needs a story, doesn't it? So we're like, back to square one. Like, Alexia, we got to write story, don't we?
Yeah.
And we did. We had to in the end. We thought it made the game better, but it's funny how your first intention doesn't always work out that way.
So with these story games, with the background you two have, and the kind of the style of game, was it really like an easy decision that this was going to be sort of an idle game? I mean, you do have to go in and you got to interact a bit, but then you got to sit back, let your bots, take over and have the conversations for you. How'd you decide kind of that style of making this game to fit the story?
So one of the things that we want to do in all of our games is kind of like social commentary, and like I'm inspired by social media a lot, and it was kind of just like the nature of it was kind of bot maker-ish. So then we looked at Picrew, which is like a doll maker game or doll maker tool, and I felt like it kind of just was an idle or incremental game. So we ended up posting it in Incremental Games subreddit and getting a bunch of feedback from there. And I think that's just kind of how it ended up.
Any early tips for this game? So for someone starting out, what should be the way to approach this game to get the most out of it?
What do you think, Bo?
You've unlocked a competition in Ray. I'm going to tell you this right now. I've seen enough in his eyes that like he's not happy if the compatibility is still. He wants to know exactly how to tweak, exactly how to work his way in here.
High match rate means you did something right. That's a good sign. Higher match rates will get your matching sooner rather than in the future or never. So
or never? Oh no, okay.
Those requests are pending for too long. I mean,
there's something really wrong.
But yeah, try to figure out what the character's like is a lot of the strategy of the game.
I would say even Easy Goat, which is the first target you can grab on, who I have 100% compatibility with and has given me all kinds of money. I mean, just funded my game so far. I'm still missing 4 storylines for Easy Go, and I was just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I give up? Do I give up my cash cow to try and look better, or like I'm already 100% compatible and I'm just kind of sitting and waiting? Again, this is day 1, and I told you guys I woke up in the morning. I had to get my phone. I even said, "Hey, they pushed an update through," and I was like, "All right, let's do this." And oh yeah, for sure. Once you put these things that there's storylines, you can unlock storylines, and you can only unlock them if you figure out what they like so you have to read their conversations.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, there's so much to do.
Yeah, I guess the 2 biggest tips would be read the conversations and then read their bio.
Oh my gosh. And how do you get the bot conversations? Because I know I could, you have the options to ask a question, you have the options to scam them eventually or to end the conversation. I only have one question. I don't know if I've just done a bad job, but I can only ask, like, do you trust people? Is that just the main bot thing, or am I doing something wrong?
That's actually right. That was a funny thing. Alexia and I had talked about that for a while during development of the game, and we settled on just the one question. I think people might expect more, but we wanted that one question to sort of explore all the 40 characters and see how they respond and kind of get to learn about the personalities of everybody. And it also hints at, sort of leads towards the moral of the game, which we didn't want to make a game about scamming that glorified scamming. And some of the early feedback said, like, this is a horrible game. It's bad to scam people. Why are you celebrating this thing. So it's a way to get that story to shine through the characters just consistently through all 40 of them, and kind of learn what they say and learn about the characters.
See, Ray, the killing curse is wrong.
Well, I will say this. I don't want to give away too much as people are listening to this and playing the game. Is that I very clearly I feel that my character every time I hit a level is going down this terrible spiral, like just going to like this awful mental spiral that I can't see a way this game ending without something terrible happening. Essentially, I feel like I'm like my character's getting crazier and crazier and going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole. And I got to see where it goes. So for sure, it doesn't seem like he's having a good time doing this. Like it's taxing on him, but he can't stop.
We wanted it to be relevant to tech culture and the culture of social media. So all of the do you trust people and their conversations alludes to that. And then also how Henry Horns is going down this spiraling path. And then the backstory of Gwendolyn Goat all ties back into that.
So I'll ask you one more thing about this, and then we can move to another game. What was the decision like to kind of jump ship, start your own indie gaming company, and not be working for a bigger company at this point, just kind of and doing your own thing?
Do you want to go first, Bo?
I think I was just ready for it at that point in my career. I feel like, I actually jumped ship earlier, to join Niantic when it was 30 people, which is like, I like smart startups. I like small companies. I like getting to wear 20 hats and, do all these different parts of a game versus focusing on like just write code for this one part of this one product. You can't do anything more than that. Like I'm the kind of person who likes to do it all. And I was just getting that itch again where I want to do more. I'm ready to just try. Let's try. Might as well try and see what happens and take the risk. I've wanted to do this for a while, and it wasn't one trigger, I guess. It felt like the right time, and I was ready, and I did it.
Yeah, I think we had that conversation at some point, and we were like, well, we're both in the same spot, and maybe we're both financially ready. Like, we can take a risk and like get away from the politics. Like, working in tech is extremely political, and you have to do a lot of that type of work in addition to the stuff, like the technical work that you're doing. So we both talked about the games that we liked and what we wanted to make, and the timing just really worked out.
And we were pretty sure that with all these layoffs, or with we'd always be able to go back to get a job in the game industry, but with all these layoffs going on, I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah, it's been a stellar 2024 so far. All 14 days in. Yeah,
we've posted about it. It's just we talked about it a bunch, even on the site last year, where I felt 2023 was just like kind of this huge boom for game. I mean, big game after big game came out. They felt like all hits. I played like 3 or 4 all the way through, and I was like, wow, this is what a year it's been. But every other month, the story was we're going to have more layoffs from every other company. There's some sort of disconnect between the two things right now, for sure.
Yeah, we've also got a bunch of there's some voice actors, comedians, like SAG-AFTRA type folks, and they've had a rough week this week when it comes to that too. Those folks have not been expressing their joys either. So yeah, okay, understand where you're coming from.
I totally understand the that politics playing too. Different world, but I teach in public schools, but I also started tutoring with my wife, and I tutor for the past 6 months now, kind of our own business, and being that feeling of kind of being able to do it your own way, as opposed to doing all the hoops on top of trying to do it. I completely get it, because I feel the same exact thing, working one-on-one as opposed to in a giant group kind of thing.
Yeah, you also just have to live your life, and like, why not take a risk when you may not be ready, but like, what better time than now to do something fun and interesting and a big challenge?
Well, hey, before we move off of Grift, I just want to ask one: what's the price for Grift? Available on mobile, Apple, and Google, right?
It's free.
Oh, look at that! There you go. I'm subtle, if nothing else, right?
I played. I listen. I'm going to say it. I have played part after part and changed screen after screen, and never once was there an automatic video for a game that does not actually play the way the video says it's supposed to play. So that's also listen. That's also been a huge reason why I played all day, because I don't get stopped at any point either.
And you can buy accessories. There are things you can buy. They're optional. They don't really affect much in the game, just mostly cosmetic.
But they're there. There you go.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah, I do want to drop in here, though. I mentioned before the broadcast, we have a couple things set up on the site for those who are on Channel 3. This is the release day. We have timed this episode. We managed to get everything together. This episode will drop on January 17th, the day that the game releases. You will notice, if you've not been on the site yet today, that today's quest of the day is to actually just go play Grift. So head to your relevant app store, Apple, or the correct store that's Google, whichever you pick, so be it. But go on there, play the game, and get your bonus XP for the day by taking a run at this game there. So as Ray's eyes also lit up earlier, because I did not tell him prior to the recording starting, this is tagline eligible as well. So if you beat the game, we also have a put your trust in goats. We have a tagline at the ready for those who beat the game as well. So go out there, give it a shot. There's nothing, you literally have nothing to lose when it comes to taking a shot at Grift here.
You might lose your sanity though. Just don't fall too deep into the story. Don't become the character, because I'm telling you, it's a. It just I see the tea leaves. This is going to be a terrible outcome for this character. But again, I have to see it through.
See, I wedged that in there because I should have had a perfect transition. I had the perfect opportunity for a transition. You've referenced Chief Emoji Officer a few times. Your first game release, you mentioned earlier, and I was about to say earlier this year, but it's not this year anymore, but within the last year. So 2023 was your first release. Chief Emoji Officer, available on the app stores, available on Steam, out there for you to be able to play. It's I will read the tagline, which will summarize it effectively. A text adventure that recreates the absurdities of the tech world by letting you become CEO using only emojis. Climb your way through corporate America by getting promoted, making allies, avoiding layoffs, and turning Redify into the most successful company in the world. Every time you were discussing, the politics, every time you were discussing the tech world, I was like, I should just really transition, but I want to get the other Grift pieces out there. So, but you can see where the absurdity of that world comes in here in a very instant message, various instant messaging apps that are out there. This game's structured in that way. I kind of love I hate to use the word absurdity again. I love the absurdity of this game, as you've got just this. I turn the text speed up on it, but this rapid fire, you've got these different message strings, threads that are going off here, and then you reply, Margarita, sunshine. This is a game where like all this activity is going on here, and you have everybody reacting to just like thumbs up, and you're and everyone will rejoice or try to get you fired or whatever it is as you move up in the corporate world here. So I think we've probably got a taste of what made you say we're going to take this experience and make this a text adventure game.
I think it was kind of therapeutic in a way. It was our first game we did before leaving the real tech world, and it was kind of my pet project. We actually started on Watchmakers early on, and then for some reason I got this wild hair and decided, I just think it might be funny to do a silly text game where you just chat with your coworkers. It was originally going to be like a little, not open world, but like there was a little world you could walk around, but then Alexia had the idea, let's just put it over Slack. It would be a great game just over Slack. Screw the whole rest of the interface. If you just chat people, and then I think she also had the emoji idea, so credit goes to Alexia for the strokes of genius. But it just seemed perfect. It was after the pandemic, everything had gone over Slack. So I think without the pandemic, that game might not even exist. Because people would say, why would people run their whole business over Slack, But now it happens after 2020.
Yeah, it was really relevant to a lot of people. And Bo had written this story that had a lot of funny stuff from just working with people in tech and kind of the tropes that you get with those people.
Yeah, you get those side DMs at the same time from two different people on conflicting sides, trying to get you to buy in on it. Meanwhile, they're mixing up group messages and telling someone not to. How hard was it to like save for just don't be a Karen joke? There's a literal Karen in there that you just like. Which one of you two did that? I just need to know now.
There's one Karen joke in there though. I think there's one hidden in there somewhere.
There's one, but it was perfectly timed. It was just a little shot in there.
I don't even remember who came up with Karen. Probably Alexia.
I don't know. I think we created all these characters that kind of were inspired by people that we had worked with, and we were like, man, they're really annoying. Like, they're definitely named this person. And there was like one specific person in there that's not named after anybody, but we would make fun of that person and the things that they would say to the other characters in the game. And we're like, wow, we're making up coworkers to like talk crap about. It was super fun because it's just us too,
Oh, it's this perfect balance as you need with a lot of satire of realistic but also seemingly unrealistic until you realize like no this is the way it goes. This is this is the way these people are going to be. So a question for this one. So behind the scenes, it seems like every time you make every time you're making a reaction, there's a different path, there's different reactions, right? And just like, how do you not pull your hair out while trying to figure out how you're branching these off and kind of bringing things back together and not just sending it off the rails? I mean, I've taken a couple runs at different pieces of things, and I like the way you have it structured that each chapter or piece you can go back to and take another run at if you want to. But first of all, that had to be tough not to break it. First of all, you're designing it as Bo shakes his head vigorously. It's not easy not to break it, but it seems like there are a lot of divergent paths this thing can go down while you're doing it. How do you balance all that?
I mean, Alexia kept me in line.
Oh,
It's hard. I mean, it's all at Alexia. She's the game designer, but it's hard because you want to balance, like, you want it to feel like you can really choose a million different paths without pulling your hair out. And I'll let Alexia explain, but it is exactly the balance that you just mentioned is very, very hard.
Yeah, it gets out of control. So Bo made some tools for yarn spinner and then twine, which are two tools for narrative design and branching narrative. And I think you had already started the yarn spinner one for watchmakers, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that when we were prototyping, like, we wanted to go a lot bigger in the branches, but then it became too much work. So then we took it back a little bit and we did some research, and we just, made choices that impacted the story, and we figured out how to make them really meaningful, but make it a little less branchy because you can get to 1,000 branches very easily.
No doubt. How did you decide the visual aesthetic of this one? So I kind of asked that with Grift also, because you can see some consistencies across it, but this one's got a lot more color to it, I would say, versus Grift. I mean, clearly a different color palette you're pulling from here, and it gives it a very different vibe. As Ray mentioned, I think with Grift, there's this inherent darkness again as you're watching this train wreck that's taking place, and there's this vibe of like, oh, I'm watching a train crash and I can't help it. But you're also kind of, again, kudos to you for balancing wanting to keep people hooked on that, because that can go horribly wrong, and somebody else to explain how you made that balance work. But this one's a little different. This one's like, it kind of keeps you enthralled because it's just like, it's simple. I like the way you can also change the speed of the text too, because I'm a fast reader, so I'm like, I need to speed. Oh wait, I can speed this up. Look at that quality of life implementation here. But how did you decide on the aesthetic for this? That we're going to take this corporate environment and give it all these bright primary colors and neons and kind of give it that vibe.
I think that the decision was, so this was the first time I had ever done art in like a character sense for any game or anything. So it was pretty limited because I just hadn't had a lot of practice. So I'm not sure it was like ultra intentional, but a lot of people, when we were showing the game off for playtesting, mentioned Agretsuko, which is like very cutesy, but also it's an anime about working in the tech world or in like corporate world, and just kind of like went that way. In my past, I'd just done a lot of like colorful stuff, and Bo didn't say anything against it, so I kind of just went with it.
That means you did it. It means you did it right? There's the times where somebody, you have a little back and forth to make sure you're going the right direction, but sometimes it's the right decision.
Yeah, we talked about we had adjectives for what we wanted the whole kind of game to feel like, in terms of the art, the characters, primarily the art and the characters, the music. And Alexia, correct me, but I think it was something like pretend serious or pretend cheerful.
Pretend serious for sure.
Pretend cheerful. I think pretend cheerful also works. You're describing the corporate politics of pretend cheerful works. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's so great at this company. We're all so happy. We just high five all day. But it's like, where's the underbelly? Like, what's really going on? Then you get
the background DM snipes that are taking place.
Toxic positivity was another phrase.
Yes. That's a good one.
If my wife heard you say that in the next room, she'd come over here and just rally her fists and agree with you heartily about that. So how many ultimate paths? So at the end of the day, again, you could have branched this off thousands of ways, and you kind of have to weave it back because you have this not massive story, but you have all these different options, all these different paths, all these different crossroads that you can go down. How many paths does this game end up having?
We largely kept it confined to levels. Like, the branching is typically within a chapter of the story. So each chapter has 2 or 3, maybe there's one with 4. Probably on average 3 per chapter times, I think, 6 chapters or so.
My evals are good, just so I'm exceeds, just so we're clear. I'm good, but
good job. You're
so I got the good path. I'm going
worker. You could work at Google tomorrow, Dan.
Did you entertain the manager with the night out?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah, I went. Hey, why don't everybody go take a relax, take a break? I get that. I use that little margarita emoji or whatever it is. I like how the typo started shortly thereafter for people. What? Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
I think, Alexia, are you talking about the path that gets you fired immediately?
Is it? I forget.
Dan's gonna get fired.
No, it was an early one, just about like everybody go out and have a night out and relax. That was, I did not get fired. It was just a little group bonding experience. That's all it was. Nobody.
You can have a romance. You can have a full-on romance with your manager.
Oh, good Lord.
There you go, Dan. You see, that's why I don't go out to these parties.
Well, her name is Alex Fox, or his name. It's up to the imagination, but it's Alex Fox.
Oh, Dan.
Whatever. I'm the deer emoji or the deer avatar. So I got nothing. That doesn't seem good. Not okay. Not good. I do like your timing also, by the way, for the crypto rips, basically. Like, just you could. I don't know when the development timing of this all was, but you were right on top of that when the release for this came out. So good timing there.
Finding articles is the funny thing that we're like, we already made that point. Actually, with the SBF, they had to go Sam Bankman-Fried in his trials. I read that the courts had to determine if a thumbs up emoji response counted as a legally binding yes. And they did. They agreed that it did. But it was like, that could have been a Chief Emoji.
And you guys are writing absurdist. You're trying to write an absurdist piece here, and you could not have made that up.
Yeah, it was funny. It just feels so funny when stuff like that happens. Half of it wasn't intentional, but later on the news breaks, and that was essentially in our game.
I mean, let's say, it's The Onion, it's the Babylon Bee, it's The Simpsons, because of, The Simpsons also can predict everything that's happening in the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like real life is turning into satire. It's amazing to see.
So when you're writing this, and I mean, I don't know how much comedic efforts there were with this, but there are certainly plenty of times where there's almost a punchline to the press feed updating or someone's DM. Like they're just basically punchlines or things that I'm laughing at while I'm looking at this. So just like something subtle happens in the main feed, and then the press feed happens that like drops the counterpoint to it. Like maybe you shouldn't have done that. Immediately there are these responses to it that I can't help but like chuckle to myself or laugh out loud, or maybe I'm too deep into the reality of this. And I'm like, oh, I love when these things happen at the same time, or maybe I have to seek therapy. That could also be an option, but yeah.
This was our therapy. All of this stuff happened to us. So if we wrote it, like it was something that happened.
That's where I always say I'm not smart enough to make this up, but kudos to you for your ability to program that comedic timing into this.
I'm glad you got some laughs out of it. It was writing that much is hard, but there were times where I was laughing just imagining this stuff happening. So it's good that it got through.
I think that Bo is the better writer, so I will give Bo credit for most of the funny stuff in there.
How do you balance that between the two of you? So, I mean, you're both coming from this background. You're on your own now, and it sounds like you know who to go to help you out with the art. But like, as you're writing these things, right? And you've written. Well, there are some similarities between these two games, but you got something completely different. We're going to talk about in a minute here, but as you're how do you balance the design elements, the writing between the two of you? Is just kind of like you compartmentalize? Do you kind of come back and agree on things? How do you usually work that out?
I think we come from two different backgrounds, so it works itself out pretty easily. Like Bo is an engineering wizard, and then I do game design and the artwork and stuff, so it's kind of like compartmentalized itself. But then we do the writing together, we do a lot of the game design together. We make decisions together, like we're always chatting with each other. So I think it works itself out. Bo, do you have anything to add?
No, just it's great to go to business with somebody without complementary skills. Usually one of us has it covered. Whether you're talking about game design or art or engineering or marketing or social, or it's just we kind of knew this would work. We didn't know for sure, but it's been really great that our skills are completely opposite almost. But we do make the important decisions together. We kind of have the same high level, and then we compartmentalize.
I think we're just also good at communicating. We both have a similar style-ish. And we just talk about everything and get everything on the table, and we're transparent, and we're kind of no BS. It's just like we need to get something done, and we need to just work it out really fast.
And that's why we failed in the corporate world, because we're no BS.
You gotta balance it. That's all it comes down to.
Hi, I'm Adnan, one of the co-hosts of Strangecast.
And I'm the other co-host of Strangecast, Adam.
Yes, this is Strangecast, Player One vs. the World's Life is Strange-centric podcast. We mainly talk about Life is Strange, but we also talk about games from Deck 9, from Square Enix, from Don't Nod, and we also bring on people from the community of Life is Strange, and also developers, and including voice actors. Many of whom have won awards for their performances.
So come check us out on all major platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Come check us out, Strangecast.
Cheers.
Well, let's talk. So your third game that we're going to talk about here of your three games that you were working on, Watchmakers has a demo that's available on Steam. In a small desert named Ozona. Forgive me, did I say that right? Is it Ozona?
Ozona, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I didn't screw that up. I'm leaving that part in, so I'm not cutting that out. Known for its magical properties and time-traveling abilities, a courier named Domino receives an assignment to deliver a watch. I'm so glad. I almost said to deliver a pizza. The Domino pizza thing was really good. I don't know how intentional that was. We're going to get back to that, but I'm going to screw that up. To deliver a watch from a mystical wanderer. Explore the world and solve puzzles to deliver the watch before it's too late. Again, the demo is currently available on Steam. Channel 3 folks, take a look. There's a quest you can get more XP for there. But this I'll call this your first move for the company outside of the text-oriented games here. Bray and I have both taken a run at the demo here, and again, just it's fun to see the different environment and know that like the two of you are working on this at the same time. That there's a completely separate. You've got this kind of what would you call it? Cell shaded? Or I don't know how you would describe the animation. This is where I'm going to be outside of my element. Sound like a guy clapping two rocks together, but so be it. And, but I want to talk about everything from the sound design to the aesthetic to the sound design kind of keeps popping up on me because I just wonder how do you design what the sound of the what's the name of the currency again? I have it in my notes here. Forgive me, but the shinies, the little jewels, yeah, like even that. But tell us about this one. What's going on with Watchmakers?
You can take this one, Alexia.
Okay. So Bo and I were talking about a short hike, and we kind of played it at the same time, and we really liked how small it was and how simple it was, and it had a short narrative. And if you don't know short hike, it's like an hour and a half of gameplay, and you go on a short hike up a mountain, essentially. And
if you don't know it, go find it, because you should.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great game.
And the developer made it in about 6 months, but they had also been working on a game that was very similar to it, so they had like a bunch of stuff beforehand, like tools and such. So we kind of bonded over that game. We were like, we really want to make a narrative game that's kind of like that. We want to make something smaller scope, because it's just the two of us, so we can ship something pretty quickly. So we got working on that, and we got the demo out, but the artwork was larger scope than we had thought. But we got a lot of good tools out of it. Bo made a lot of engineering. Bo did all of the sound design as well. Yeah, that's why that came to be.
So with basically all three of these, how do you... Something as simple as naming Gordy the totem. How do you make decisions like that? I'm sure it's not just hit the phone book, give me a name. I see a name. How are you coming to those decisions?
That's funny because Gordy is my dog's name.
I was gonna guess whose dog is it, but yeah.
Yeah, Gordy is the dog. Domino, I was watching Eyes Wide Shut, and there's a woman with Domino in that. So I really liked that name because it's androgynous. Ozona, I was on a road trip, and Ozona is a place in Texas. The rest of them, I think we just put them in a spreadsheet and finessed them.
The Texas group is going to go wild now, Ray. The Texas subgroup's going to go.
They're going to be very excited about this.
Yeah, a lot of the art, I wanted it to be like Texas desert, with the plants and the flora, but have a little bit of that Middle Eastern architecture.
Is there a Miyazaki undertone in here somewhere too? There's some vibes I'm getting. I said, who's responsible for that one? I needed to know.
So toon shading stuff hides a lot of issues in your topology of your models. So it's a lot easier and lower scope to use that type of material. And I have watched a lot of Ghibli movies.
Yeah, a couple character designs are not direct or anything, just a nice little homage or adjacent.
Yeah, but a lot of considerations for scope though too.
So is this one you're proceeding with? Is this what are you guys thinking as far as this one goes?
It's the problem is right now is that it's more than 8 months. We started this originally, and we realized pretty quickly that this is, with two people, a serious time commitment. So we wanted to we were doing that in parallel with Chief Emoji Officer. And as a two-person company, we don't have a ton of time runway. So we want to get games out the door. So we said, let's ship CEO first, get to Watchmakers after it. So we did that. We got to Watchmakers, put a lot more into it. And then we said, well, Grift. We got Grift 2. This is another smaller game. Just timing financially wise, we need to make some money as a small studio. The rational thing is to get Grift out before this game. So it's kind of it keeps progressing in stages, and eventually we'll finally knock it out.
Well, don't let up. There's something here.
Thank you.
I would say the Domino making the watch deliveries was not lost on me. Whether it was on purpose or not, I was like, oh, I'm Domino's making deliveries. I get it, like that. Like I'm in. Sure.
I had never thought of that.
Oh God, Ray and I just have an issue here.
Away.
And this sounds like a great Easter egg.
I mean, it's there. That and the other thing that like it just hit me right away was when I changed time. When I changed time for the first one, that music, that noise that it makes when it changes time, that hit me. I'm all about it. I love the sounds in games and stuff, and that's just a good one. I traveled twice just to hear it again.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I just got hit with another game we're going to talk about later. That's that was what the vibes were for me with that.
Time travel's hard to do in games. It's like really mind bending in real life. But then when you try to make a game and account for all the time travel, it's trippy.
I appreciated the explanation to it when they were like, "Yeah, just look at the clouds; they're not moving." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." That there's a logical reason to think the time has stopped. I accept it. Like it was perfect. All right, so we've talked about the games you guys are making here. Thanks for coming on and talking about these games. I'm excited for them, and thanks for hanging out. We're gonna ask you kind of a couple games that you have not made, but you've enjoyed playing and your thoughts on it, like we normally do here. First game that showed up was Inscription. And so I just have to ask, is there inspiration kind of between this game listed here and kind of the style of game you want to make? I thought of Grift, with this, darker story with something to do. It's like there's the story is the thing that really matters, and then there's just something to do with it to kind of do while you're learning this story here.
Yeah, definitely. So I have played Inscription a lot this year, and I really liked the narrative. I liked that it was a horror game, but not like overtly horror or gory. And obviously the deck building aspect is really engaging, and there's a lot of depth there. And on top of the bosses being all different. I think coming from Chief Emoji Officer, we wanted to make something that wasn't as cutesy and had a little bit of like a more mature tone. And I just drew a lot of inspiration for the colors and stuff. We originally wanted to do just all brown on Grift, but we ended up adding some colors to it. But just having like a bit more of a darker tone to it.
Is this one you've played through multiple times?
Inscription?
Yeah.
I have played up to where you are battling the AI, but I stopped playing it after that.
Do you have for either of you? In your own company, and you're talked about how you need to get games out. Do you have time to play games right now? I almost ask that because Dan and I, it almost seems like as we're working on the site here and doing so many things directly about games, I end up having less time to play games as I'm doing a whole site about games.
My biggest obstacle is the two kids. I got two little small ones, and play a lot of peekaboo. So if that counts,
I also I've got two small ones too.
Bo, everybody goes through that. That's the second dark ages everybody has in their life. You come out of it eventually. Either when they're really smart, like maybe I work a little time in between naps. Like I can't get a full night of sleep in. I'm just going to use this 2 hours. But you're in the dark ages again. It gets better.
No, and like I think I may be coming out of the dark ages, Dan, because I've been I picked up my Switch for the first time in a couple of years and finally got into Tears of the Kingdom. And after everyone goes to bed at 7:30, it's my time. And I've been going like 3 hours almost every single night. It feels good to be back. I'm peeking out from under the rock or the caves or something.
Yep, that's my time too. Let's say the couple hours after everyone's gone to bed.
Yeah.
Also, when you make games your job, it's harder to play games for fun. I think we look at a lot of games for research. Like I don't play as many games as I used to. I played Inscription and then Vampire Survivors and a couple other randoms here and there this year, but definitely a lot less than some of my peers.
So let's talk. You got another game here we talked about, Factorio. a basically factory design game. I have not played this one, but I get a lot of various Sims vibes of the 90s. But you're basically building what they say is an infinite factory here, as you're continuing to increase production, making new devices, but the idea is a continuing, ongoing, and it seems like a pretty big game as far as the scope goes, but Factorio.
Yeah, that's been in the works with those devs for at least 15 years. And they just came out of alpha maybe last year, I think, or the year before.
Yes, I saw 2016 info. I saw 2020. They had kind of like I guess that was kind of the first full release, and they're coming out of, they keep moving on a little bit at a time here. Yeah.
Yeah, so Bo just visited me in San Antonio recently for a quarterly meetup, and we played Factorio. I never really was interested in Factorio because of the aesthetic, and then my partner played it a lot, and he always had these like streams up on the TV of like sushi belts and just random like challenges from streamers. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And the first day I did it, I had sunk like literally 10 hours into the game, and I did not want to leave the couch. It was so good. You have so many different ways and choices that you can make a factory, and there's a really clear goal at the end. Like, you have to get the rocket off the planet, right?
Yeah, I have concerns about this one awakening something in me also.
It's dangerous. Oh boy.
How did you find this? Was just like a game developer kind of like word of mouth, or was this out there? I added this one to the Channel 3 library. It was not one I heard about, but how did you find your way into this one?
I don't know the streamer's name, but there's this one guy who just does Factorio streams, and he has a really deep voice. But he always does like a sushi go round, like the challenges that I mentioned, or like only doing one belt for the entire thing, and then he like does a speed run or something. But like I said, my partner was streaming it, so I was like, oh, I'll try it out. It's also co-op, so you can play with your friends or online, so that's a great way to play.
And then the next set of games we're going to get into, we're going to get into a bunch of Legend of Zelda games. And we're starting with Breath of the Wild. Bo, you just mentioned that you picked up your Switch and we're playing. So are you like a big Zelda fan, or are you a fan of Breath of the Wild?
I haven't played all of them, but my first Zelda game was Ocarina of Time on the 64, and that was, one of the most magical gaming experiences I've ever had. Played Breath of the Wild. It's amazing. Breath of the Wild is amazing. It's an amazing game. Came out right with the Switch. And then I pick up Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like 10 times bigger. It's unreal. How do you do this?
Noted indie alpha game, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Gets its full release in Tears of the Kingdom. That's, yeah.
And I was just blown away by how much stuff there is. I was like 70 hours into this game, and then I learned about auto build, which is a system that builds everything for you with all the gluing stuff together with your arm. And that's a huge system to build, but for them it's an afterthought. We'll put it 70 hours in the depths, maybe you'll find it. It's a massive system.
And it's a maybe you'll find it. You have to go into the dark. You have to go into the half of the game they didn't tell you existed.
Yes.
And go find one little corner.
Yes. And then my Puripad is complete now. What? It's unbelievable. How much content they have where that is an afterthought.
So what was that feeling? Because like they said, the game was like, hey, by the way, we're going to add islands in the sky in the second game. What's the feeling when the first time you go into the depths and you realize, oh, wait, they made the entire map, but also underground?
It's just the same. Blown away. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? The depths were scary. I'm playing at 10:30 at night. I need to go to sleep afterwards so I can wake up at 6 with my kids. And my heart's racing because it's freaky down there and there's goblins and it's dark.
I only have 200 glowing seeds. I need 200 more. Just keep
light blooms.
I'm gonna blow a rotator cuff through on these things.
Oh my god! It's just that's my main takeaway is how on earth did you make this game? And then I looked at the credits like the other night when I finished the game, and like, there's the answer.
It was not two people, but Ray and I are legally obliged to point out every time we talk about this game that you can't get a Call of Duty update under 200 gigs, but somehow they put this entire game on a 16 gig. On 16 gigs.
Is it 16 gigs?
Yes, it's a masterclass of efficiency. I don't know.
And like Breath of the Wild, they had to build. I think there were issues with Breath of the Wild because they had to build it for the Wii U and the Switch, so it's not as compact or efficient. But it's the same thing with like Mario Wonder. That what's that one, like 8 gigs or something like? It's under 10 gigs.
Tiny.
I know that much, but
it's
like
tiny.
The Nintendo, just like if they're making stuff for themselves, they are. And like you said, there are thousands of people running through the credits on those games, but man, they took 7 years and they made it count, I guess. I don't know.
And like I mean, honestly, after 8 months of making a game, I'm like, I'm tired of this. Like, let's finish this up and go. 7 years. I can't imagine that.
Well, the other thing too, you don't have, you're not announcing it 7 years ago and having people hound you every 30 days saying, "Where's this game at?" Either. Flex,
no,
have you done much down the Zelda path, or is this Bo's corner here?
When we were making Watchmakers, I played Majora's Mask, which I liked because it was much smaller. Like the time commitment for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Also, the cost is like a little much for me at the moment. I did play Breath of the Wild, but I haven't finished it, so I didn't want to buy the next one. And then I also played Wind Waker, which also inspired Watchmakers, just the cell shading aesthetic. Yeah, so I've played those. I think there's another one I've played, but I don't think I played Ocarina.
Have you guys looked into the development history of Majora's Mask? And just like the story about what happened there?
No, what happened?
So it's probably worth taking a look into, because I'm not an encyclopedia for these things, but I tell you, it's probably worth looking into, because back then they had dedicated Zelda teams working on games, and they would split them off to work on A project and B project. And after and forgive me, Bo, I'm so glad Ray is so polite to our guests, because if I said Ocarina of Time, as I have so many times, because as I've pointed out to him, I grew up in Philadelphia and we did not have Ocarina shops, but Ray is just so polite, because if I did that, he would have been all over me. He also says GIF though, so who cares? But anyway, so Majora's Mask. So first of all, you have
what was that?
The camera system for Ocarina.
Yeah, who's like, Majora?
Oh Jesus Christ! You know what?
Who's
somebody mute him. I'm not doing this now.
He's acting like a major A right now.
What mask does she have? What mask does Majora have?
So it's fun to look at like how they built the camera, even with Ocarina, and like basically a running box around you. But the idea for Majora's Mask was they were inspired by Run Lola Run, in this movie that just like takes place in a compact period of time. They didn't have a lot of time to work with, so they just built this little world and said, we're just going to pack it and run the time over and over and over again. So rather than building out, they built in, is kind of the idea, because they had a smaller team, they had the engine that they were working with, and they said, we're going to just kind of run it back. And that's a very inarticulate caveman way of explaining it, but it may or may not be inspiring for you while you're looking at some of this, of like how they had to not cut corners, but like instead of building out, they had to build in. But it's kind of fun to look at that one. And again, that's the first thing I thought of with Watchmakers. But sorry, Flex, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a definitely much smaller scope than Breath of the Wild or Wind Waker even, and just you go through the same map over and over again. It's definitely like a consideration for our time travel and our map in Watchmakers as well.
And again, I don't know how you do the time thing. Good for you two for trying to sort your way through that, because like I know I have to go find the rabbit guy by this tree on the second day, 10 o'clock of the day, like, and having to program all those pieces in here. That's a lot.
We hope it works. Time travel is tricky.
But hey, listen, if nothing else, tying in and using these as inspiration, you'll get a GameSpot article about check out this indie game. That's the Legend of Zelda meets blah 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 with their what I assume is an AI headline generator for them, but but it'll get the right kind of attention for you. That's the important part.
We hope so.
This is good inspiration to keep going on it too. I love your guys' feedback.
I gotta ask one more question for Breath of the Wild. It was more for Breath of the Wild for me than Tears. So because I'm paranoid about stuff. Do you use the hero's weapons that you get from each battle, or do you save them because they break?
I totally forget Breath of the Wild, but is it the same thing in Tears of the Kingdom where you get
Tears?
the
They let you they tell you bring me the parts and I'll make you this weapon again.
There's much more,
and the thing breaks after like 10 hits.
Tears is a little more forgiving, but so for me, like Breath of the Wild, I completed Tarrytown, have my house there, and like all the special the trident that you got to commemorate the Zoras and the scimitar are sitting on the walls in the house, and I like even like the shields, Hyrule shields sitting there because I refuse to touch them and have them break on me. So, these wonderful weapons, they're like, yeah, you should use these. These are great. I was like, no, I won't be using them. They will sit as trophies on my wall.
I wish I had that tip because I was pretty sure the thing wasn't going to break. And then it broke and I was pretty devastated. So I wish I had put it in my house.
Just the thought of it, it makes me so upset.
3 diamonds.
It's like a crack dealer, though. Give me 3 diamonds. I'll make you a new one. First one's free. After this...
Terrible. That's it. That's all I had to say about that.
Yeah. You did it right.
So we have one more. We have an honorable mention we wanted to bring up here. Vampire Survivors. First of all, some fresh DLC for it recently, but an auto shooter that we'll talk about. It's leading to some clones now.
Yes.
But a game you can kind of just sit back and roll with. You got to kind of maneuver around. You got to kind of manipulate. You get to pick your weapons. But Flex, you want to kick us off here?
Yes, I will talk about it, and then I'll let Bo tell me that I'm wrong and it's not a good game. But I started playing it.
I got your back. Let's do this.
I started playing it because it was cheap, and I just love how simple it is, and it's co-op, and I love co-op games, couch co-op, and all of the characters are really interesting. I love all of their flavor for all of the characters. I love how they make jokes about the roasted chicken, and I love how it was challenging for me to get through the dairy plant in the beginning, and I was dying over and over and over again until I realized that I need to make strategic decisions about what I'm choosing to level up each time I'm getting that pop-up with all the new weapons and such. And it was really interesting to see all of the information about the developer and how they worked in slots before. Have you heard about all of that?
No, not really. I glanced at it, but it's one I've not dug too deep in. So please go off.
Oh, so the developer is an Italian developer, I believe. And they were a manager in a casino game company. And so you'll see a lot of inspiration in Vampire Survivors from that because you pick up a chest and then you get this big, juicy flare of you collected a chest and you have a big dopamine rush from all of that because it feels great.
You're not just grabbing a chest, but running through a horde of skeletons that might murder you if you don't give the exact path to get to that chest. Yes.
Yeah, and it basically blinds you at the end because you're there's so much stuff on the screen that I can't even see what I'm doing.
Emphasis for the warning for folks who suffer from seizures. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So Bo came down to Texas, and then we started playing it a bit. Because I was like, this is really fun. It's very simple too. The art is simple. Well, it's really detailed, but it's simple. But yeah.
And the next thing you know, a half hour of your life is gone, and you're starting level over.
It's nice because it's in chunks. It's in 30-minute chunks, so then you can lose yourself in chunks of time.
It's kind of funny. You talk about the rich narrative. You could go in 2 ways into that game. Way one is, I'm just going to do the stuff. I'm just going to play the game and do whatever and figure it out and wing it. And thing two is you read all of these biographies and you start reading into the clues of what seems like a level of just I wander this way and there's green. I wander this way and there's green. And then you start finding out like, oh no, there are specific things that happen in different parts of the map, or there is, if you travel in this direction, you get to X coffin or Y character, or next unlock here. There's a lot. You can either look at this very superficially, or you can appreciate just how much depth there is hiding in this thing.
Yeah, and I love some of the characters. Like, there's a really slow character that has a cane, and they have like a wheel. And I love playing that one because it's hilarious. Because my partner gets mad at me because I'm so slow. But I'm just like, I'm an old dude with a cane. I love it.
So I'm going to ask, so have you tried Army of Ruin yet?
I don't know what that is.
That is one that someone wandered into because it was on sale for like, I think it's only like $6 regularly, but I think it was on sale for like $3 in the post-Christmas haze of everything. But they've taken everything about Vampire Survivors and kicked it up a few degrees. Like I don't know how, like, there's so many of these clones popping up now. I don't know how that guy hasn't gone after them for it, but yeah.
There's so many clones. Like, you name a theme, there's a clone about Vampire Survivors with that theme. Crabs, there's a Vampire Survivors for crabs.
I learned something today. Well, if you're looking for one that's only a few dollars, Army of Ruin's pretty good. If you're looking for that next fix after the DLC gets done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for taking a little tour. There's one thing I'm going to ask. We've taken enough of your time, but one thing I'm going to ask of you. Normally during the course of the show, we take a quest or a question that we ask on Channel 3, and we ask for you to discuss it briefly with us here. And I'm going to ask just a dumb one here. And it doesn't have to be an overly complicated answer. If Mario wasn't a plumber, what profession would he be?
You see, hold on, you've ruined the question. Because I made the question, and that is not the question. That is not the question, because that would be silly. That would be a silly question to ask. The question was, is there another profession that Mario could have been, and the series still be successful? Dan's ruining my question.
Fine, do that first.
Just another profession. That would be so boring. Could you succeed with another profession?
So put your narrative design hat on, and I guess I'm not going to hear the end of this one.
And while they're thinking, I'm going to say this right now to those that said that the pipeline system has nothing to do with him being a plumber, or that it could have just been there anyway. Those people are ridiculous, and I want that known. Of course, it has to do because he's a plumber. It can't just be there because there has to be reasons for these things. All right, I'm done.
I kind of feel like he's a wingman. Like there's like Princess Peach, but like there's not a thing, and he's just like totally cool with like Princess Peach. And it's like, aren't you in love, man? Or are you just like a permanent wingman?
That's amazing.
Like
That's a different answer. No, I don't think anybody has said anything to that degree. I don't even remember what I said to it.
I said no love story there.
I don't know if I have a super creative answer. Maybe like a simulation engineer that works on simulations that have to do with pipes. I think the pipes are really important. I agree with you.
I agree. The pipes. Somebody put it wouldn't be successful, and I said, yeah, that makes sense. It's just I don't know there was a way to do it.
This is our 58th record. This will be our 57th episode. Few extra bonus episodes. Our 58th recording, and I don't think I've had Ray have to like just pull me aside and have a performance review with me to this degree. But fair enough.
Destroyed my question. These are professional game developers here. We need to ask professional questions to these two.
Which emoji would you respond to him with, Dan?
Oh, it would absolutely just be the sunshine.
Oh, and that's where we're gonna end it right there with the emojis. We've made it to the end of another What Are Your Three podcast. Thank you so much to the Bodeville gaming team for joining us. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts. Well, actually, not Google Podcasts, YouTube Music. Google Podcasts is no more. Or anyone else you listen to your podcast. Again, on the day that this recording comes out, there is a quest for Bodeville's new game. It includes trying Grift. Go play it. It's free. It's mobile. You're going to get sucked into it. Go play Grift. I'm Ray. Dan Tucker puts this all together, and for our executive producer, Joel Willis. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks for spending some time with us, Ray. If we're good, I think we'll let you guys get about your day. Thanks again for your time. Sorry, normally these are an hour. You guys are gonna be a long one, so thanks for we did do two of you at the same time, so thanks for bearing with us through that.
Hey, no worries. No worries.
My goal is that my Wednesday post is to show me beating the game already. That's
what a flex.
That's my goal. That by Wednesday I have it defeated. I'm at marketing level 15. I'm not, and I'm not gonna ask how many levels there are because I don't want to know. I'm gonna keep going. I need this. I need to know. I gotta know.
Ray students are gonna be real happy with you guys this week.
Yeah, I gotta know how it ends. Why is there a red? Oh my God! I've been reported. I've never been reported before. Oh Jesus!
Good luck.
It's my first.
It's my first system we threw in at level 15. No big deal.
All right, this is the
first time I've been reported.
Channel 3 is the future.